Welcome to episode 4 of the Whisky Burn. My name's Jay and welcome to my Whisky Den. This week we're looking at how much the price of whisky is and whether it's going too high or whether or not it is affordable. So this week, how much is too much? So welcome to How Much is Too Much. Now we all think whiskey and the price of everything is going up. So I'm here to look at what whiskies we could afford and what we might be able to afford and talk about why it is that whiskey is so expensive. So with me today I have got a Dalmore. This is a beautiful whiskey, 12 year Dalmore. As you can see, it's well drunk. I have a Crag and Glen. It's a blended Scotch whisky. It's aged 3 years. And we'll do a taste of that. And I have the Famous Grouse, which is the best-selling Scottish whisky at the moment. I believe it has been for a while as well. So the Dalmore here is a 12-year-old, and I believe it is a 40%. 40%, that's a 70 centilitre bottle. It's important we remember that. 40% there as well. This obviously is a smaller bottle. It is 35 centilitres, so this is half of the Dalmore, but it's still 40%. Famous Grouse, this is a litre bottle, this. This is ridiculous. I've never opened this, so this could be a first. Litre bottle, 40% as well. Okay. So, tax. It's probably the biggest killer for whiskey. £31.64 for 100% alcohol. So imagine if this was filled with 100% alcohol for a litre. Okay, I've read this up. I'm 99% sure I'm right. So a litre bottle, if this was 100% alcohol, it'd do you some damage. That would cost £31.64 straight away for tax. Okay, so it's 40%, so whatever 40% of £31.64, that's just under half. So you're looking at maybe £14, something like that. I read that the average price of a bottle of Scotch whisky is £15.22. So the tax on that's about £11.40. I did just read that before I came on and recorded this. Anyway, you get the idea. Basically, a bottle of whisky, a lot of it is tax. A lot of the money is tax. Now, the Dalmore, it's a 70 centilitre bottle. Majority of whiskey does tend to come in 70 or 75 and at 40%. So, 40%, we worked out, let's just roughly for argument's sake say it's about £15 this bottle's tax. Straight away, 15 quid. You've got the bottle, couldn't tell you how much that cost. You're probably looking at about £5 a bottle, I'd guess. Then you've got all the sticker on it. So there's a sticker. The little the little decal on there, if you want to call it that, the stag head sticker on the back. You got the cork at the top. So before you've even thought about putting a price on this, you're already paying out probably £25. So this is 25 quid. Now don't get me wrong, you buy everything in bulk, blah blah blah. Get a little bit cheaper. So you kind of look at that and go, right, that's about £60, £65 bottle of whiskey there. Very nice and well worth it. The Crag and Glen, which I have tried, and wowzer. It was about 10 quid, if that. That's 40% and that's 35 centilitres. So same percentage as the Dalmore, but half the size. So you can get a lot more bottles, therefore I assume make more money and sell more. This was picked up in one of the big supermarkets. I went for the cheapest bottle, just to see what it's like, to see if the cheapest bottle is worth it. I'm going to be trying a few supermarket whiskies in a few weeks' time, so look out for that one. And the Famous Grouse, again, I know it's a litre bottle, but again, 40%. I know it's a litre, but it's 40%. So you look at it and you've got your rares. I mean, last week we were talking about the Kilchoman cognac cask that cost around £75, £80. And that's about, well, it's hard to say because You look at it and you go, right, there's 15,100 of these bottles out there. Well, there's a few less now because I know that 3 of them aren't there. So you look at that and you go, right, is it worth that £75? Now, it is a beautiful whiskey. I know I went on about it last week. I do not get paid by any whiskey companies to promote them or anything. It is a lovely whiskey. Is it worth 75 quid? Well, am I going to keep it and collect it, or am I going to drink it? I have one of each because if you watched last week, you'll understand why. But for me, you're paying for the quality. And that's what I want to delve into now, is how much is too much. So here we got a Crag and Glen blended Scotch whisky. It's aged 3 years. It says special reserve on it. Does that actually mean anything? Do they just put that on there just to get you to buy it? Distilled and bottled in Scotland, matured in oak casks. 3 years, okay? Blended, 3 years. Basically, straight away it says, serve with your favourite mixer over ice, or add 2 parts whiskey to 1 part green ginger wine. That's very specific. To an iced fill glass for a whiskey mac cocktail. That's what it says here. That's it. There are no tasting notes or anything. So, Crag and Glen, smooth and rounded. So, I can't remember what this is like, to be fair. There's not much of a smell. I'm getting grass on this. That's about it. It's very faint. Again, that could be because it's been there for a while. So let's have a bit of a dram of this. This is Crag and Glen, bought from a supermarket for £10. It's got a bit of caramel notes to it as well. Now it's had a bit of air. I don't know what to say about this. It is cheap. It is. But would you buy cheap if you are getting into whiskey? Let's have a smell. Because sometimes you get the cheap, try it, and you go, because it hasn't had lots of distillation. It hasn't had flavourings. It hasn't had that matureness. It's been in an oak cask for 3 years. Oh, it's got quite a strong smell now. It's come out of the bottle. It's been aired a bit. Caramel notes, grassy notes. Quite a strong pungentness on that. It sort of hits all around the mouth, that. You know, it's not actually half bad. It's got a long finish. Newbies to whiskey, you don't want a long finish. That's not bad. Caramel notes in there. I'm still getting the grass. I kind of feel like it's a bit of a one flavour wonder. It's nice. It's nice. I wouldn't say it was for a newbie, unless maybe put ice in it. You know me. Let's dunk a couple of ice cubes in here and see what we get. So, I was just thinking about this. These are 40%ers here. Now, last week, I tasted the Kilchoman Cognac cask. That's 50%. So you think that's 50% in that bottle. Straight away, half a £31.64 is tax. Straight away. You're going, wowzer. Per litre, you can work it out. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to do all the maths. Okay, I've told you how much 100% of alcohol costs per litre. But £31.64, that's gone up. I believe there's something like 75% of a bottle is taxed or something to that. It's ridiculous. Pay a lot of tax on whiskey, but it's worth it. Caramel notes. Do you know what? When I first tried that, because you may have noticed the bottle had been opened, the Crag and Glen, when I first had that, was poor. I was like, wowzer, the mouth just exploded, the burn was there, and I was like, whoa, bit of ice, completely changed it, really smooths it over. Back to that 50% bottle. With the 50% bottle, you will be paying more. But you would expect a whiskey at 50% to be something good. Something worth that extra money. Because we don't want to be paying out more money. Like the Dalmore 12 here, £65. I can't remember what it was. I think it was about £63. The Kilchoman cognac, which is a numbered edition, which we talked about last week, which is why the price was slightly higher. £75 a bottle. So you go in, right, that's £12-13 more than this. It's 10% ABV more. 10% volume more. So that's 50%. This is 40%. It's down to taste. Surely it's down to taste. Now, Famous Grouse, best-selling whiskey out of Scotland. I have not tried this in a long time. And when I mentioned it to my friend, and he said, oh, wow, that's one of the worst whiskies I've tasted, I was quite surprised. Blended Scotch whisky, the finest Scotch whiskies, expertly blended and matured in seasoned oak casks for rich, rounded sweetness, product of Scotland. Fair enough. Again, 40%. 40% means they can cut the costs. So, for example, in beer, when the tax got put up, I think it was last year, in 2023, when the tax got put up, you noticed that beers, so for example, I think it was Stella, don't quote me on that, went from like a high percentage alcohol to a lower one. It dropped to like 0.6% or something to that effect. Why do they do that? Save a bit of money. Why wouldn't you? If you're making gallons and gallons of liquid, and if you can reduce the alcohol percentage to save yourself X amount, the more you do it over the mass that they produce, save yourself a fortune. So anyway, here we go. Famous Grouse. I don't remember the last time I tried this. Not much of a smell. Not getting any real aroma at all. There's something there. Couldn't tell you what it was though. Let's try it. Okay. Let's just leave a little air for a bit. So ultimately it boils down to, I think, how much you're into whiskey. So if, like me, you really like whiskies, you want to try different ones. I used to be Johnny Walker, double black, all the way through. That's what's sat in here. It's one of my favourites. So it sits there, gets top regularly when it empties, because that's my go-to. So for me, I was always that hard smoke kind of taste and smell. But it's all down to you. You know, if you're well into your whiskey, then yeah, why not spend that bit and indulge in a really nice, decent bottle of whiskey? But then, you know, if you're just starting out, remember week one, the Glenfern, about £18 a bottle, something like that, from one of the big supermarkets. Gorgeous whiskey, and it's cheap. I mean, it was on offer. But anyway, best-selling whiskey, Famous Grouse. I'm getting quite a strong, it just smells like alcohol, really. You see, the Famous Grouse is about 18-20 quid, okay? Not the litre bottle, that's more obviously, but the normal sort of 75 centilitre one is about 18-20 quid. I'm smelling, I'm not getting a smell like the Crag and Glen. I grass and caramel. That's not bad. It's an easy drink, and I could. So pubs, restaurants will probably sell that because it's cheap. People know it, and it's an easy drink. However, people who go, oh, I don't like whiskey. I tried some once, and I was in a pub, and I thought, oh, I'll try one. It'll probably be Bell's or Famous Grouse because they tend to be the common ones that they have in the pub, and that's what people have heard of, so they go for that. But if you, again, depends what you want to pay. You're in a pub and there's a Macallan, and you're like, oh, I've heard of that. How much is that? Oh, it's £10 for a dram. All right, well, how much is the Famous Grouse? £5. Well, I'll try the £5 one. You get what you pay for. So I'm not getting much flavour in that. Getting a little whiskey burn. Not as much as the Crag and Glen, though. Try it with ice. It's, if I'm honest, I think it's quite bland. but £18-20 if you just want a drinking whiskey to add to as a mixer to a cocktail or something perhaps, then yeah, why not? It gives you the whiskey, you know, you get the smell, the aromas, the taste of a whiskey, and you don't have to worry about it because it's not a decent whiskey that you want to enjoy like this, just nicely on its own and go for it. So how much is too much? In my opinion, if I'm going for a nice one, like I said, I bought and I don't want to sound like I'm going on about it, the Kilchoman I bought for around £75. This Dalmore I paid about £63, and I think that's another lovely whiskey. I bought the Le Chic, and that was about £35, so it's a lot cheaper, but it has such characteristics, and it's so nice. So I think what you need to do is look at your budget, and you say, right, I've got X amount of pounds. Some supermarket whiskies are really decent. I will go into that. I'm going to do a special on a particular supermarket that has their own collection. Okay, I'll go more into that. But again, you go to a supermarket, you pick up a bottle of Crag and Glen there for a tenner. £10 for that. I think it was even less than that if I'm honest, but there you go, £10. Is it a hobby? This is a hobby of mine, whiskey. So if I'm going this is a hobby, then why would I not pay a little bit more? Why would I not pay for something really nice? You know, if you're into fashion and clothes, you'll probably pay a little bit more than someone who isn't. But you've got to start somewhere. So for me, getting into whiskey is certainly something. If you do like the occasional whiskey, then maybe put some more money into the pot. Maybe go for that little one. Maybe the Dalmore 12. Maybe. I wanted to try and get the Dalmore 15. I've had it and it was sublime. But then you go, right, well, that's an extra 20 quid on there as well. So, tough decisions to make. How much is too much, in my opinion, is what you're willing to spend. If you're into your whiskey, I'd say try for something, read about something, get reviews on it, get tasting notes. Last week, I did the Glen Moray Phoenix Rising, and I opened it here on the Whiskey Burn, and it was absolutely beautiful. I think it cost 30 quid or so, 35 pounds. And that is the whiskey single malt winner for 2024, you know, and it was very nice. So you pay a little bit more. I personally would probably pay, and I bought the Glenfarne, but I was at a tight budget that month, but I would probably pay anywhere between 25 and 60 pounds for a bottle. But I'd need to know that the more I'm paying, the more it's going to give me something back. I did buy a whiskey that was £35, the Singleton, and it said smooth and easy on it. Opened it up, and I thought the first time I had it, there was nothing smooth and easy about it. I felt like I'd been ripped off. I thought, that's it, I paid too much money for this, and that's what you don't want. So there you go. How much is too much? Down to you. How much do you think you should spend and how much you want to spend? Me, I enjoy it, so I'm going to spend a little bit more on some of them. But I've got a litre of Famous Grouse to get through. Wish me luck. Anyway, that's it for this week, and I'll catch you next week on the Whiskey Burn. Cheers. Enjoy your whiskey.
These my dance make it hurt.